Barbara Lee of California. Thank you for being with us, Congresswoman.
Good morning, Reverend Al. Glad to be with you.
Now, when the president says this, first of all, a personal attack on a federal judge, this so-called judge, how do you respond to that? I mean, this seems to be a little over the line to, you know, a sitting president attacking a federal judge as a so-called judge. Let's start there.
It's outrageous. First of all, that's another bit of evidence that this president does not either understand or respect the three branches of government in this democracy. And when you denigrate and dismiss the judiciary, a judge, and a judge that President George Bush nominated for the bench, come on, this is another clear indication that something is very, very wrong with this administration in terms of how they are attempting to undermine our democracy here and our form of government. It's dangerous, it's serious, and people need to continue to protest and raise their voices and put that street heat on this administration, because we're at a very, I think, a defining moment in our country.
Now, when we see the street heat and the continued demonstrations from various constituencies on various issues, but really coming together, questioning this, one of the things that has become of serious concern is now his nomination for the Supreme Court. And in light of the fact that this nomination is to really supersede the nomination that President Barack Obama had given a year ago this month when Justice Scalia passed. Now, many, including me, have said we can't just walk past the fact that they, in many ways, have went around what is procedure, normal, traditional, whatever term you want to use, and denied even a hearing to Judge Garland, who was the nominee of President Obama. And are we going to proceed here and really establish now a historic pattern, Congresswoman, where parties are allowed to just ignore, decide, sidestep a nomination of a sitting president if it's a president that they don't like, don't agree with, or not of their party? What is the historic precedent here? And in light of that, how do you and other members of Congress go forward on dealing with the nomination of Donald Trump without dealing with that?
There's no precedent, Reverend Al. First of all, Senator Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate, they really stole this seat. It's a stolen seat. And so we have to remember that as we move forward. Secondly, when you look at this nominee's record, you know, and Donald Trump's criteria, it's very dangerous when you look at some of his decisions, especially as it relates to Roe versus Wade, the litmus test in terms of women's reproductive health care. And so as the Senate moves forward, you know, we're going to be raising our voices, especially from the Congressional Black Caucus, in terms of how this nominee would, you know, at least judge in terms of the criteria as it relates to fairness and justice, but also remembering that, you know, we have to play by the same rules. And they're not playing by the same rules. And it was really outrageous. It was ridiculous. It was unfair that at least Judge Garland did not get a hearing. It was disgusting, really, when you look at how the Republicans treated Judge Garland and the Obama administration. And I would say that we need to really look at the rules and how they change the rules and understand what we have to do to ensure
what can
fairness
you do?
and justice.
When you say look at the rules, what can you do? Can there be a showdown by the Democrats in the Senate and the Congress saying, wait a minute, you changed the rules to block Garland. Now, what are going to be the rules here? We're going to play by the same rules here to block Gorsuch, or we're going to all agree that you robbed it last time, you were wrong, and this is going to be the precedent. I mean, can we call for this to be a showdown and define what is going to be the procedure from now on?
Absolutely. I think members of the Senate can do that. They can also filibuster. I mean, they have to game this out how they want to do it. But as a member of the House, I would suggest that first, we have to just say we've got to play by the same rules. If those were your rules, why aren't they our rules? And really move forward on that basis. Reverend Al, may I pick up on one appointment in the administration, Steve Bannon? I just wanted to say how dangerous it is to have, as Nancy Pelosi described him, as a white supremacist sitting on the National Security Council. Members of Congress of the Progressive Caucus, Black, Hispanic, and Asian Pacific Caucus, we sent a letter to President Trump and said that he should be removed from the National Security Council, but also he should be removed from the White House. His fingerprints are all over foreign policy issues now, and especially as it relates to the Muslim ban that has been, thank goodness, suspended. And so I think we need to look at the dangerous nominees that he's placing forward in terms of what it means to our country. Also, here we are now looking at a possible confirmation of Senator Jeff Sessions next week during this is Black History Month, someone who has stood on the wrong side of civil and human rights. And so I hope that the public really understands the nature. And voting rights.
Now,
civil rights, voting rights, human rights.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, about Steve Bannon, because twice in Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader of the House, twice in her statement, she referred to Bannon as a white supremacist. Twice. And I thought that was very, very, very telling of the attitude of many of his record. And to have him on the NCS is a national security, NSC, correcting myself, is something that is alarming at best. So I'm glad you went there. What can be done in the Congress to really try and force the president to at least remove him from there if he can't be removed from the White House, other than a bully pulpit?
Right now, we are actually looking at legal ways to approach this in terms of the research we're doing to see if we can find a mechanism to remove him if President Trump does not remove him. Right now, the public pressure and the street heat, the marches and the protests will help. And the more we expose this man and who he is as a white supremacist, his background, Breitbart News, many of the terrible, dangerous statements that he's made, and to see those statements now and his views reflected in our foreign policy, dangerous, it's wrong, it's serious, and we have to find every way we can to make sure that he is removed from the NSC and also from the White House. So we're in the process now of trying to determine if we have some legal mechanisms to really remove him if the president won't.
What is the danger? If I'm sitting at home this morning, sipping my coffee before doing whatever I do on Sunday, explain to me, Congresswoman, the danger of having someone with the radical thoughts and radical expressions of Steve Bannon on the NSC.
Look at the chaos, for example, that the Muslim ban has created to people who should be able to enter into our country, to refugees, people who've been vetted. Look at the madness that it really shows as it relates to our international standing in the world. When you have someone there who has made statements and is anti-Muslim, for example, then these views are reflected in an executive order. Come on, this is dangerous, this is serious, and he's made statements and believes other, things about other people. And it's a very serious moment when you have a white supremacist, a white nationalist making influence in the direction of our foreign policy. The immediate situation as it relates to the ban is a clear example of the confusion and the disregard for the Constitution and for the humanitarian concerns, economic concerns of the country. We're a country built on immigrants, and he just has no clue in terms of executing or putting forth his views, on this religious ban, which is what it is.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Congresswoman Barbara Lee.